All right. Welcome, everyone. This is the Hostaway monthly webinar series, and this time we have a special treat for you. We got Derek from Stays here, co-founder and CEO. Now, while we're waiting, I just heard from our marketing team, don't tell anyone, but we're about to sell out on our Hostchella tickets. Hostchella is the Hostaway event that we're having in Miami in November. Sorry for advertising it here. It's going to be great. I haven't decided yet, for those of you who like running, if we're going to go running at 6 a.m., if we're going to do a 10K or a half marathon, but maybe we can vote along the users. Now, I'm just mentioning this because I know a lot of people want to come to Hostchella. It's hostchella.com. Yeah, we are running out of tickets, and we already upgraded the venue twice. So we had a venue in mind, but then we sold out, but then the interest was so high, we changed to a bigger one. Now we changed to a bigger one and decided this is it. Like, we're not going to go and change it because it's very disruptive to change venues and plan everything. We've done it twice already, so once the tickets sell out, they sell out. But now, let's get started. So, Derek, thank you very much for joining us. Why don't you give us a quick introduction? I asked you before the call if you could practice a bit and tell us a little bit about yourself. I hope you had some time. It would be great to hear you introduce yourself.
Yes. Thanks, Marcus, for the intro and for this. It's quite an honor. So the elevator pitch is this. Basically, my name is Derek DeCesere, CEO of Stays. We have over 100 properties in the small but beautiful state of Maine. We have some other properties elsewhere, but for the most part, they're in Maine. I've been doing this, dabbling, since about 2013. But when I say dabble, I just mean always had a couple properties. Didn't really know I loved it until around 2017, 2018, where I really just picked up steam and dedicated myself to it. And the reason I'm in this business, long story short, is just because the beach. I wanted to go to the beach more, and I found a way to be able to immerse myself in that. And although we have properties that are all over, whether they're in the woods, whether they're a cabin, condo, something in the city, it all started at the beach. So that's about it.
That's amazing. Thank you very much. I'll also introduce myself. My name is Marcus from Hostaway. We're the market leader in vacation rental software. We have an all-in-one solution for vacation rental property managers like Derek here, who is our customer since a long time. And that's it. We got actually we have over 200 staff now, which is quite impressive. But we're not here to talk about that. The reason why I wanted to bring Derek on here and have a fireside chat is that he has gone through a lot. He has over a decade of experience, and he's a sole founder. So he doesn't have any co-founders or investors or other people who are meddling in his stuff. But that also means he needs to solve all the problems himself. And I find that incredibly inspirational, and I hope it inspires you as well. By the way, please use the Q&A section here. We will answer questions at the end if there's time, and you can put any questions you want. But I have a few questions here for Derek. So tell us a bit about Maine and the guest profiles that you have. Who makes bookings there? Is it families coming for vacation? Is it people coming for a wedding and they need a place to stay for 20 people? Is it Stephen King fans who come to visit famous sites? Who comes to Maine or to your property specifically? And also, what type of properties are they? Are they high-end, medium, low-end? Are they on the beach, off the beach? Are they houses, condos? Tell us more.
So Maine is actually, I feel, a melting pot for a lot. So, just like our properties, I know people have usually a niche, but I love how Maine is so diverse. So that's where this has taken us. But the customer profile is also diverse. And I know they always say, hey, know your avatar. But, we really just hit all kinds of people. And it's also regional, right? So for example, when I say region, I just mean like a little small market within Maine. So for example, we have Old Orchard Beach, which we actually have a lot of our neighbors from Canada coming down to visit, right? That's like a huge spot for them. But then you go a town over, it's like 20 minutes away, which has become kind of like one of these beer and food capital. So people come from all over that place, even international people. So it really depends on where they're coming from, right? So some of these are driving destinations, but some of them, we also see a lot of people from all over the place. So it's pretty diverse, to answer your question.
Wow, that's cool. Maine is one of the states I haven't visited yet. I've been to quite a few over the years. One question that I always ask entrepreneurs, and one that I enjoy being asked myself, because every time I ask that, I feel like I have a different answer. But tell us, Derek, why did you start Sam Stays?
As I said, it started at the beach. I think we all can relate that we have things in our life that we say, hey, you know, maybe next year or next year or next year, that keeps getting pushed off. And, you know, I always wanted to go to the beach. I wanted to stay at the beach. Didn't have a ton of money. Didn't have, you know, the ability to travel that much. And the beach I loved is only 2 hours from, you know, where I live. And then just one day I said, you know what, this is just going to keep going unless I change it. So I used some of the few marketing skills I had to find potential properties, and I found one, then a second one. And again, this is back in like, you know, around 2013, where I always had one or two to dabble in. And when I say dabble, like I said, for years, I just had a couple, and I had no idea what I was doing and learned. And then that's it. I realized a few years into it that this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I didn't know everything. I didn't know what I was in store for. I didn't know what I was going to learn, but it was almost as if I was too stupid to quit. And I just wanted to do this business. I wanted to be in those areas I always wanted to go to. And now I gave myself the ability and the excuse to always be able to do these things. And that's it. So like I said, when I said it started at the beach, I truly mean it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I love it's not an uncommon answer, but it's I think it's very, very good to start a business around a passion that you have, because that makes it when times are tough, it makes it a lot easier to follow and try to remember that you had that passion at least at some point in life, because they tend to be cyclical. If it goes away, it will be back one day. So it's a lot easier than, let's say, a lot of people start a business because they want to be rich or successful or famous. But that's something that's not really, when the business isn't doing well, that's not going to help you. You know, someone pointing out, hey, your business isn't doing well, but also you failed at being famous. Like that's not inspirational. But if your business isn't doing well, you can always go for a walk on the beach and maybe you'll come up with some new ideas. So that's really good to hear. We had a question here from the audience. How seasonal are your properties? How do the season affect your bookings?
A little more seasonal than I would like. Yeah, to be honest with you, like the peak season is going to be around the middle of June. Most people would say to the end of August, but really September is really nice. September is mostly still summer. Then you have leaf peepers. So the peak season is, I would say, mid-June to like the first week of September. But even before June, there's a lot of people traveling here, especially over the past, 5 years with, the influx of, like I said, Portland, Maine. And then, we still do okay going into like October, even November, for a lot of people coming to see all the foliage. I mean, it's really beautiful foliage. So that's really going to be the peak season and shoulder seasons right there.
All right. So winter is a bit slower.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's still things to do in winter, and, Maine has all the seasons to its fullest. But of course, not many people are traveling in the winter. There's a couple big mountains that we have here to ski, but, it's not like skied in Utah or anything. It's, it's just a couple big mountains in Maine, but we don't have any properties near there, so we don't really get to capitalize on that.
All right. Sounds good. Well, thanks a lot. I think that gives everyone a good overview of where you are, and it's really good to hear different perspectives. To everyone who's out there, if you want to put where you are in the chat, especially if you are from Maine, that would be cool to know. Go ahead and do so. We won't respond to questions in the chat, only on the QA. Hello, Pascal from Miami. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, we're going to dive into a couple of subjects here that I think you have done an excellent job on, and that a lot of property managers out there can benefit from. But first, there's one thing I wanted to discuss, and I asked before for this, if you're okay talking about it. I wanted to ask a bit about the business model. Sometimes when I talk to property manager and I ask them about their business model, they look like a deer in the headlights and don't have any idea what I'm talking about. But property managers, as a business, it needs to make money. If you just do it and you end up losing money year after year, that is not sustainable. But how property managers make money, meaning how at the end of the month you have more than, or at the end of the year you have more than what you started with, there's many different routes to that. So could you share a bit your view? How is the cash flow working? What is your business model? And have you made any changes to that throughout the years?
Very good question. And yes, I can answer pretty accurately because our business model has changed. And I think, when we talked earlier, you said, talk about your, successes and some of your failures, and maybe we'll get to that. But, along this journey, I've learned a lot of we need to pivot, we need to change. And that's through just, as a lot of people in this business find out as they go along. So we're really now focused on managing properties for others, taking all of the knowledge we have and helping others. And I'm not saying we're perfect at it, but we're always trying to get better, which I think is important to say. But we really started out in the lease arbitrage business, right? So that's how we were able to, start this and get a lot of skills with a lot of changes, not just with, increase in rents, increase in inventory, which really slices down profit margins. We found with that we had to pivot, right? And as we started managing, I said, this is a better model. I want to shift more to this. And that's really like the big, shift we had in our business model. So to answer your question, our business model now is more managing, and that's how we make money, because it's basically, okay, we don't have to worry about making rent. We just have to worry about doing the best job we can for these owners. And then the properties that we lease, we eventually phase out or keep the good ones that work, and not the ones that are difficult and skinny to make money on.
All right. Thanks for answering that. And one thing I noticed that is you've been pretty successful at getting direct bookings. Could you walk through here for the audience, especially for those who haven't really focused on it yet, why is that important, and what steps did it take to become successful?
So to just, again, not to always say, hey, look at what we did, to also be honest, for people working to get there, we started with 0% direct bookings. And I said, oh, this is a problem. So I not only want to get more direct bookings, but also branch out and get from other platforms. But in the sense of direct bookings, it was important because we controlled the guests, right? We controlled everything, the communication, their information. We were building a relationship. They weren't going through a different channel. It's important, and we use things like Stay5, which I'm sure a lot of people are used to, which are great. And we really wanted to get very good at this. So, we use some of Hostaway's automation tools, right? So to follow up with a guest after they leave, say, hey, listen, we're going to add you to our email list. If you ever book, you get a discount. You can just rebook again. You can save some percentage. And we're also, again, with Stay5, we're also able to get a lot of, nobody knows all of the people that stayed or we use the Wi-Fi. So that's how we're able to do it. But the reason it's important is because, again, we don't pay fees to these other OTAs, but we also build a relationship with this person and control more of our own bookings, right? And we still have a ways to go, but that's really why, that's how we did it. That's why we did it. And that's why I think it's important.
That's amazing. So you actively gather a list and then direct these people to your own website.
Yeah, it's also an ongoing thing. It's not like a one-time thing. Oh, we did it. You have to nurture them. You have to keep in touch with them. Yeah, that's exactly what we did. We used the Hostaway site, and we just funnel people there and make it very easy for them to get in touch with us if they want a direct book.
Yeah, that's a great. Thanks for sharing that. I think there's a lot of property managers that I have met, at least, that think that you just put up a website and suddenly you'll get bookings, but that's not how it works at all. That's actually, there's no business like that, unless you're selling something illegal. Then maybe it's like that. But usually, it doesn't work so that you just set up a shop and then you have millions of people coming there and they're all willing to pay for stuff that you have. No, if that was the case, someone else would have already set up. Actually, 10 other people would already set up shop there. So you got to do something to stand out. And even if you're the first one, you hit the gold mine there, there's going to be others who come and suddenly you don't have the gold mine all to yourself anymore. But yeah, you need to actively build those relationships and maintain them and do marketing to your guests over the years to get a solid stream of direct bookings. I wanted to ask a bit about your relationship with the OTAs, with probably the biggest ones are Airbnb, Vrbo, and Booking.com. How has that worked throughout the years? And do you use all three, or are you relying on a lot of business from any one of them? Is that a risk or a concern for you? And overall, can you share any experiences or any thoughts regarding that to others?
Yeah, we use all the three big ones, right? And I'm a big believer in using any of the small ones that pop up too, because you never know how they're going to treat you or grow. Side note, I always love going into the Hostaway marketplace because you guys are always like pushing new places in, and it's a way for me to like discover new places. But we depend a lot on the OTAs. Again, this is why I want to like more so get direct bookings so we can spread it out more. I will say we'll probably always use the OTAs. I think the downside is that, if you rely too much on one, if they have a crazy rule or come out with crazy rules or, do whatever they want, pause your account, things like that, it puts you in a predicament, right? And I think that's very problematic. So that's why it's good, I think, to spread yourself out, but also to get more direct bookings. If that answers your question.
Absolutely. I agree with you. It's always heartbreaking for me when we talk to property managers who were relying on just one source of bookings, and then one of the guests had gone and made allegations of a camera being there, and then all of their 85 properties are suddenly offline and all the bookings are canceled. All their income for the coming 6 months is just gone. And that's a fairly common story that has taken different shapes over the years, but it's a massive risk if you rely your business on only or if your entire business relies on having only one source. Anything can change there, then you're in a bad spot, and then it's too late to help. I did want to mention a bit from Hostaway's point of view. We do get a lot of customers who want to diversify their revenue streams, which is very smart. I mean, think about it. If you have a product and you sell it to young people, what happens to young people after a while? They get old. Old people don't buy young people's product. What if you happen to have a business in a country where the young people grew up, now they're old, and there's no more young people around? Then, yeah, your business is done, unless you change to selling old people stuff or you move to a different country, which may not be practical, especially in property management. If you're in Maine, you can't just pick up your houses and go down somewhere else. Like the business doesn't work that way. So I wanted to ask, there's a good question here in the QA. And I can give my answer after, because I have my own view on it. I was trying to do an intro there. But how do you get more bookings from Vrbo and Booking.com? When you started out, Derek, was it difficult? Because I'm guessing when you went live on either one of those, you didn't get 1 million bookings right away. Is that correct?
That's correct. But so you're asking how we transition to get onto VRBO and Booking?
Yeah, and how to get more bookings there.
Get more bookings. I mean, I think there's a few different things. One of the first things when I dabbled, first OTA I ever signed up with HomeAway, which is now Vrbo. So I was always connected to them anyway. But you're going to get, if you're on Airbnb, for example, and VRBO, you're going to get a good chunk for VRBO. I think it really matters also, again, as I mentioned before, and some other things, where you are. Like You might see bigger properties book on VRBO, although I think, it's expanding, but you might just up the price on one OTA. So it's more, so because people shop around, right? There's also, if you go on Booking, there's people that only use Booking.com. There's only people that are on those OTAs, whether they're committed to them or just use them because it's easy. But I almost feel like if you're just on all three of those, you have your appropriate pricing, the listings are good, you're going to get bookings through all of them. But if you want to funnel more to one, you can do things such as make it cheaper on there, because there are still people that will shop all of them.
Yeah, I could maybe add also that sometimes we get property managers who want to start using Hostaway specifically for the purpose to diversify the revenue streams, and then they often end up a bit disappointed because they didn't get bookings from the other OTAs. Now, whether you started your career on HomeAway or Airbnb or Booking.com, the reason why you can't just set up the properties on other OTAs and expect your business to explode overnight is very simple. But there's a couple of steps you can take. First of all, your top dates, let's say the summer season, probably it's already booked on your main source. So when you put it live on a different platform, your best sellers are going to be sold out already when you go live. New Year's Eve is already sold out, so you're not going to get a booking there. And of course, the OTAs, they know this, so they prioritize properties that have a large variety of dates available. Ideally, you would go to them and give them 365 days of the year of availability. But if you already have bookings from somewhere else, you simply can't get the best dates booked anymore, which leaves you with secondary dates. Let's say you can't go in summer. Well, let's go late fall instead. Another thing that a property manager, when they started their business, they had to do a lot of work to build that reputation, to get the reviews, but then over the years, they found out that the properties weren't that great overall to stay in, but they made changes to them to give a better guest experience and got even better reviews. And that's something that the OTAs appreciate. But if you're getting all of your bookings from a place where you have 500 5-star reviews, and you go put your same property on a different OTA with 0 reviews, you simply can't charge the same price. And that's something that a lot of property managers think, that you can just put it there with all the best dates booked and you keep the same price and you have no reputation and a lot of people are going to book. That's not how any of this works. When a new shop opens in your town, they're going to have some specials. Either they're going to have products that nobody else has, or they're going to have the same products that are already there, but cheaper, so that you can come in and have a look at the shop. That's exactly how it works with putting properties on different OTAs. Would you agree with that, Derek?
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. It's very good. And I think that's helpful also to spread that so people understand and have right expectations. I think that's very good.
All right. Then I wanted to touch a bit deeper. You mentioned that you enjoy managing the entire booking process and guest experience through direct bookings. And as a part of that, you're a merchant of record. That means that you collect the payments and that you have the control over the payments. There's a lot of property managers out there who feel like they don't know if they want to do that or what the benefits are. Could you share a bit your experience on being merchant of record?
I sure can. I mean, my experience is this: you control the payment, you control the guest more, right? If they need something, you can help them immediately. You don't have to wait for the OTA to say, kind of be like an intermediary. You can refund them, you can make your own rules, and they don't really have you by the throat to say, oh, we're just going to refund this guest or do this or do that. It really puts more power in your hands. And, for professionals, right, who I'm guessing a lot of us are professionals and we want to do right by the guest, although sometimes it is difficult, right, is that, we're able to do that better. Some of the OTAs might think we can, but we want to do that, and we can usually do it better than just having the OTA be in control. I mean, I know they think different, but like I said, most of us are professionals and we want to help the guest. And now we don't have a third party, I'm going to call them a third party, trying to get in the middle of it. when we can solve it easily, but now we have to involve them. So I just think it's better because, again, as a professional, you are in control to help the guest immediately. Don't have to wait on somebody else or have someone else tell you what to do, right?
Yeah, those are some very good points. Actually, Manuel here has a question that I think is very relevant to this. He's asking, isn't direct booking more risky? How do you keep guests accountable so they don't trash your homes or steal the property? How do you ensure that they will behave? What do you think about that, Derek?
You know, don't shoot the messenger. I feel that for the most part, it works. You know, what's the difference if they go on Vrbo or Booking.com or Airbnb? You know, people book hotels in many different ways, and for the most part, it works out. If you're really concerned, you know, there's avenues that you can add for direct booking. So you might say, hey, we want to use Superhog or something like that, or take a deposit for direct bookings, right? To protect us a little bit more. So there's certainly things you can do to protect yourself for the direct bookings, and it might even be an extra revenue stream. So if you say, hey, well, direct bookings, they're saving 10, 13% booking with us because they don't have to pay an OTA fee, but we're going to charge, you know, $100 deposit, or, you know, a non-refundable damage deposit waiver of $50 or something like that. So they're still saving money, but you're making a little extra. And even if you didn't make extra, you are still helping yourself and protecting yourself and your property.
Yeah, and one of the key benefits I could add there is also that you stay in control over who you let into the property. And you, to give an example, a lot of OTAs, they have a clause where if you sell a place, let's say next week, the 4-bedroom house by the beach, if you sell that, you can't just say no later on, because you can say it's not available. But the guests, they will stay somewhere else that costs double the money, and you're going to have to pay for that. So you have absolutely no control over who's coming into the home. You just need to trust that everything goes well. And then some of the OTAs, they have some insurance products built in, but we see hundreds of thousands of transactions take place. And yeah, sometimes that goes wrong. But if you are the one controlling who comes in, you can choose whatever it is you want to choose. If you want the guests to show them your ID, you can do that. If you want them to put a security deposit, you can do that. And what's the worst that can happen? The guest might say, no, I don't want to do that. I'll book somewhere else. But you're probably better off, because that is the one who is going to destroy your place. That's why they don't want to book with you, because they don't want to show any ID. They don't want to have a credit card that matches their name. They definitely don't want to sign any paperwork. They don't want to meet you in person. Yeah, well, then they shouldn't be booking directly with you in the first place.
True. Very true. Good point. Very good.
All right, let's move on a bit from direct bookings. I wanted to ask you, Derek, we're getting to the fun part soon. But first I wanted to ask, what's, managing homeowners. That's something that I feel is, it can be bring a lot of happiness to property managers, but also a lot of stress, because I often hear property managers talk about how you need to select which properties you're going to manage. But really, it's not always about the real estate. Sometimes it's about the owner. Are they willing to make changes? Some of them are completely, they don't want any contact with you. And if something needs fixing, they always pay for it. But others are on your back all the time. How do you manage that? And what have you learned throughout the years that you can teach other property managers?
Would it be, are you okay if I mention the difficult ones? I think that's what's worth.
Yes. And what you did about it.
Yeah. And, and that's the challenge for a lot of people listening is, we love the owners that just, treat us as professionals. If they have an issue, they can bring it to us, or we can just take care of it and they can trust us. But, what I've learned is this, especially over the past year, is that I know it's hard to say no. It almost feels like irresponsible to say no to something that you can do. And sometimes you don't know an owner is going to be difficult until you get to them. And I will say this, luckily my experience has been, there's not too many of them, and it is hard to pick them out at first. It's not perfect, but you should have some type of clause that gives you an exit. And you should always do it professionally, but the hardest owners and the ones you should really be done with, are the ones that you need to fire, and it's not going to be that many. But the owners we've had the most problems with are the ones that are just unreasonable. Like I'm not looking for a thank you, right? They pay us to do a job, but like we do 95% of the things right, and then they're always finding that 5%, right? And there's gonna be 5% all the time. I'm just making that number up, but just nonstop. And it's not like, it's like we are feeling like we're some freak case, like we're doing something wrong all the time, but we are working so hard. The team and I are always working hard, always behind the scenes, and you can't really handle unreasonable people. You can only deal with them for so long. So once you really know, and you can usually talk to your team about this, like, is this person being unreasonable? Maybe this isn't the answer we want to hear, but you have to let them go. Like, you'll get a new deal, but that's going to take, if you have one property and it's taking the same work as 5, that it's not doing anyone any good, especially your team. So the answer is, how do we deal with it? We learn from it the best we can, right? We try to fix their issues, knowing, hey, they might not ever be happy, but we can learn, go a little bit forward, see if we can make them happy. But if we get to a point where we're like, this isn't going to work, you have to fire them. We have some of those now. To be honest, like, we will have to do it. But again, it's not all doom and gloom. You can learn. You can say, look, team, we're going to learn how to deal with some people that sometimes are being unreasonable. Maybe some of their things aren't unreasonable. Let's get better at this. Let's work this to be an opportunity for us. But let's also understand what a difficult owner is, and here's a great example, right? And we're going to let them go. Usually everyone is all about it. It's unfortunate. We do try our best, but for some people, it's not good enough. So in my mind, that's what a difficult owner is like one that's unreasonable and never happy, no matter what.
Thank you very much. Could you share a bit an example of what is reasonable versus unreasonable? I think this is something that they never teach you anywhere. Not in property management school, not in webinars, not in books. What are reasonable asks from an owner, and what are unreasonable asks? What are those things that that this is not gonna end well?
That's not gonna end well. This is a good one. For the audience, I think like the easiest way, I like examples when I'm listening to things, and as I told you, I really hope that I can provide some value to people here best I can. But the way I would compare it is, think about what a reasonable guest is versus unreasonable guest, because we deal with so many of them. So an unreasonable guest, and owners have the similarities, and I think everyone would agree here, is that you have a person that walks in. They walk in, they get their phone out, they start, I don't even know if they're on their hands and knees looking for dust, a hair, something like that, right? Things of that nature. The TV doesn't work. It's like, okay, well, did you actually, did you check? Maybe it was unplugged or something. Like, no troubleshooting. Like, they have almost made it their mission to just find things wrong. And that is what we feel unreasonable owner is. Again, there's not too many of them, but they clearly stick out, because if an owner calls me and says, hey, you guys are doing a good job, we have this issue, can you explain to me what happened? Absolutely. Maybe we messed up. Let me go fix that. Thank you for seeing something, saying something. That's not unreasonable. An owner pays us to do a good job. We want to do a good job. We want them to know we're here for them. But it's constant scrutiny and micromanaging and jumping in and not letting us do our job, saying, hey, you're not taking care of this, when in fact, like, we're in the middle of it, actually. So that's what an unreasonable owner is to us, which I think is a valid explanation. I don't feel like I'm overdoing it. I feel like that is what, for us, an unreasonable owner is.
That's a very, very good example. And I think, just like, if I can add my 5 cents, I think managing the guest expectations can be very helpful in these situations. I was once renting out a place that was a way lower standards than the average in the market. As a result of that, of course, I had lower prices, but I had a lot of guests who I thought were unreasonable, but actually they weren't. It was me who was being unreasonable in hindsight. So what they did was they looked at the quality of the properties in the market, and then they chose ours, either because it was the only one available or because it was cheaper. And then when they got there, they complained about everything all the time. And the reason was not that my property was bad, it was just that it was worse than the other properties in the area. So as an example, all the other properties had air conditioning, ours didn't. And of course, all of them complained about air conditioning. And I thought, why can't they read the description and so on? But it was actually me being unreasonable because I was renting out a place that in an area that needed air conditioning. And I've seen some property managers do this really well on their website. When you go to the section of, do you have a property? Do you want us to manage it? They make 2 columns. This is what we do, and this is what we don't do. So if they don't furnish the place, or if they don't, there's a lot of things that they don't do. They're not I saw one, right? We are not your personal assistant. Like if you want us to, buy a Christmas gift for a mother-in-law, that's not what we do. But those are requests that property managers surely have gotten. So how do you set the expectations for the property owners? Do you have an introduction call? When you onboard a property, how can they know what they should expect from you and what they shouldn't expect?
We give them a cheat sheet, and this has evolved over time. So now we give them a cheat sheet, but I've also realized that, people are busy and they forget it, or they don't know where to put it. So it doesn't really help them. So we really try to give them a few people on our team that we say, look, just give us a call, right? Like forget the cheat sheet, like here it is still, but we're going to have to be there, right? So if they have an issue, they have same person every time, they can call with that issue and fix it. Because that's really what they want. They want to talk to a person and get it fixed. And they want to hear that person saying, okay, I know what the issue is, I can fix it. It's actually going to be a few minutes, or it's actually going to be a few days or a week, right? But that's how we do it now. We just know that we have to be available. So, and not for the unreasonable owners. Like there are some owners that are great. They're just, they need more hand holding. That's fine. So it's call us. Here's a cheat sheet thinking, hey, we're smart. Look at this. But again, like I said, people are busy and they're going to forget. So that's how we handle it. We say, look, we're here. Just call the number. Don't worry about which person it is. If you called the wrong person, they'll just going to call someone else on our team and we'll figure it out. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to figure it out. So don't worry too much about it. It's really the simplest thing that we found works right now. It's not some super streamlined process. But I think at the end of the day, people just want to talk to people. So that's really what we do now.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Accidentally hit the space bar. I wanted to ask, what are your biggest surprises over the years? What are the things that sometimes you still think back? I wonder how didn't you know that, or how, why did you have to find out the hard way? What are some of the things that when people ask about what kind of work you do for a living? Well, what are the things that really stand out?
Stand out as far as like stories, or just things that as we build the business, like any of that, really?
Both.
I mean, the biggest things that stand out is the realization that I didn't, I'm fine with this, understand how much work it was going to be, how much things I was going to learn. Now it's almost like, hey, what's next? This is kind of exciting. I know it's not always going to be ideal, but it's really exciting. The stories, people always say, I don't know what I can say or can't say on here, so I'll keep it PG, but, people are always like, oh, you must see some crazy things. And I always say, like, if you name it, it's probably happened. And I'm not, you name it, it's probably happened. And then I think, well, there's probably some stuff I can name that hasn't happened yet. And then I'm like, oh, great. Because I'm like, there's just so many people going in and out, and people are a little weird sometimes. And so there's going to be more that I see, unfortunately. But again, the stories, that's kind of what people ask. Oh, you must have seen some things. It's like, yeah, you have no idea. And I don't know that person's level of sense of humor or what is PG or R-rated for them. So I don't usually go into too many details, but there are some things for sure that all of us have, whether they're small or big. Like if you think you've seen it all, you have not, and you will see more. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. There's a good TV show about cottage stories. It's called The Ozarks. I can recommend that.
Okay. All right. I might have to check that out. I gotcha.
Yeah, it has something to do with opium, but it's pretty neat. Pretty
Okay.
neat. Yeah, there's an actual real place in the U.S. called the Ozarks, and they apparently have a lot of cottages. Just reminded me when you gave your answers. Now, I wanted to ask a bit more practical questions. So how do you actually manage 120 properties? Do you do it all yourself? Do you have different teams for different locations, or do you do you have partnerships or affiliates? Like how does that work in practice?
My team. I wouldn't be able to do this without my team. Period. So we all work on all the properties. There's no properties assigned to certain people. We all handle everything. So that way, if someone wants to go on vacation, we have 2 people on vacation right now. We're all pretty good at handling it, but that's how I handle it. My team, we use Slack a lot, right? So we're all on there, all chatting all the time. We know all the tools we use, but yeah, I would be lost without them, and I think a lot of people can relate. But yeah, I do it with my team. I couldn't do 25% of it all by myself, right? So yeah, so it's not without them.
I know the feeling. I had a mentor tell me that so far in your journey, you have hired people that are better at doing the things that you are really good at, but they're better than you, and you come to the stage where you can hire those. But now you're going to get to the stage where you're going to hire people where you have absolutely no clue what they're even doing. That scared the hell out of me. Yeah. And it's actually true. As a company grows, that's first, you're really good at everything, and you're lucky if you have the money to hire someone who can do 25% of what you do, or maybe 50%. But then at some point, if you do things really well, you actually find people who are even better than yourself at the very thing. And then eventually you get to the stage where you need to hire people, but you have no clue what's going on. But we had a good question here from Manuel again about direct bookings. And I actually don't have many more questions on my list. So we can maybe go to the QA section. Everyone, you can put your questions there. And yeah, if you have any questions about Hostella or Hostaway, you can put those in as well. But yeah, Manuel is asking here, for direct bookings, what payment options do you offer to guests? He's had a few direct bookings and have trouble getting payments via Zelle due to dollar amount limitations. Which payment method do you recommend?
Well, I mean, if he has Hostaway, I mean, you can connect Stripe or Authorize.net. So, and they take just about every single payment except crypto, I believe, and that's just for now. So you would want to get with one of those big players so you could accept just about any currency or amount.
Yeah, Stripe would be a good one. That way you just get their credit card. Then Adil is asking a question here for Hostaway, so I'll take that. He's wondering if there's any third-party insurance to get for bookings. We do have a marketplace. We have quite a few insurance partners there. So if you have spoken to them all already, then please contact our support and let us know, and we'll try to find a solution. And yes, we are working on our own insurance product as well. So that's coming later. But yeah, our teams have told me I can't speak about that in public yet because it's not public. So sorry everyone, team, if you're listening, sorry. Then a question here. Before you use Stayfy, how did you collect the emails, and do you collect phone numbers as well? This is from Shay.
Oh, that's a good one. I struggled with that for a long time. So the answer is manually, and if we did it is questionable because it was difficult. We had to ask for the email, and then we had to essentially have the team members copy and paste it into a database, right? And then we didn't even have, a system for email at the time. So Now we've kind of got stuff in place where we use switchback email to help us. So it's just someone else that's always doing it. So we're always keeping in touch with them. But again, this is a while back, Marcus. So I'm just trying to think. I don't even know if we got 50% of the people to give us their emails that booked, right? And that's just the single people. So when, StayFi came on, that we're like, oh my God, this product is amazing. So now we're not needs to, access the Wi-Fi. It just goes right in, it integrates, it adds to our email list, and we just get tons of emails each week. They can unsubscribe if they want, but it's a great way to just build and build and build our list, which is very inexpensive to do and very beneficial when you start talking about, we talked about growing your direct bookings. So that's how we did it. I wouldn't recommend it. I would just go get StayFi, just to be honest with you.
All right, that's great. Yeah, it can be really hard, and I haven't figured out a better system either. So yeah, just use StayFi. Here's a free promotion. Natalia on the webinar here is actually managing in the Ozarks. Natalia, I have gone to New Mexico because of Breaking Bad. I took my wife, despite her strong opinions of, she really didn't want to do it. I took her to Baltimore because I love The Wire. We've been to Denver because of forgot the name of the brewery, but we like to travel. So I think next summer I will come and visit you in the Ozarks and rent a nice cottage. No opium needed. That would be fun. But Natalia, you have a question here for Derek. You put it in the chat, but I'm still going to lift it up. It's a really good one. How does your guest messaging team look like that are active on Hostaway? So how big is it? How are the tasks divided? Do they do more than just messaging? I think that's a great question. How do you organize it in practice there?
It is. I mean, I think we have 7 full-time people that do messaging, but that's only part of their role. Because again, they have shifts. So we'll usually have, maybe 1 or 2 people covering some shifts. So it's always connected, even it's 1 a.m. And because they're not 40 hours a week straight, they're not dealing with messages every minute. They have a few other tasks each that they really excel at. So that way, if they're not doing messages, they can work on other things that help us progress, whether it's looking at what our issues are, can we fix it, giving me their feedback, which I started asking for more, so I know what problems do we have. So to answer her question, that's how it's divided up is, most of their roles are mainly messaging, but they have other big roles as well.
All right. And then a question here from Umer regarding this is specifically for Airbnb, regarding the host-only fee. So are you familiar with that at all, Dirk?
What was it?
Host-only fee. So instead of having a guest fee, you have a host-only fee.
We haven't tried it at all yet. We haven't. So I don't have much experience with it.
Okay. Well, then I can answer that. So in some markets, when you use a property management system, Airbnb will switch the fee. So instead of having your price, let's say you're advertising and a guest is looking to make a booking and it costs $1,000, but then they go to the checkout page on Airbnb and suddenly it's 120 or 115, and then they don't make the booking. So in those markets, Airbnb has shifted it. So instead of advertising it at 1,000, they will advertise it at 1,150. So when you go to the checkout page, you get the same price. And in some markets, it's by law. You have to do that. In a lot of European markets, it's the law. And in California, as far as I understood since a few months ago, it's the law. You have to advertise the actual price that you charge. You can't, say it's going to cost 500 and then you go to the checkout page and it's 1,000. So, and usually when EU or California makes laws, it tends to spread around the Western world. So this is something that will happen in a few years anyway, that guests will actually pay the price that they are advertised. But until then, Uber, to answer your question, he's asking, when we add this to our price, the price becomes more than competitors. How do we go about it? The answer is very simple. You have one unique selling point that none of your competitors have. No guest fees, no hidden fees, no booking fees. Put that in your title, you'll get your calendar fully booked. Then your only problem will be, why aren't you getting any bookings? And I can tell you why. That's because your calendar is already fully booked. I don't know if you at all read any newspapers, any social media, but if there's one thing guests hate, it's extra fees. Don't trust me? Just Google it. Airbnb guests hate extra fees. Google it. You'll find a million articles on the subject. And if you can put that, no hidden fees, no extra fees, no guest fees, no service fees, no booking fees in your title, you're gonna get so booked you don't know what happened. That's just the way it is. So, but that's in a market where not everyone is using it yet. Of course, when everyone is using it, then you lose your unique selling point. But if it's true what you're saying, that the others are adding the guest fee on and you're not doing it, then you have a really unique opportunity here to squeeze your competition. So really good question here by Umer. And that's a tip for you, Derek, as well. You might consider turning it on, advertise it a bit, and see what happens to the calendars.
Trying it out. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, all right. Then Adil has a question here. We're running low on time, by the way. But what's the best way to keep the video data record when guests check in and out for all apartments? How can we access this file playing system? I'm not sure. I've never heard of anyone having video calls, but Derek, do you have any experience? What's your check-in process like?
It doesn't. We make it very easy. Everything's self-check-in. I'm not sure what the video data is. You mean cameras, or maybe?
Or
Okay.
a conference call?
I mean, we don't do that, so I can't speak to that. If he was talking about cameras, we've only just added some cameras to our bigger property, which just is only if something happens and we just have it backed up into the cloud. But yeah, I don't do. I'm just reading the question. Any video data record, you would just keep it in like Google Drive. Like for next to nothing, you can have almost unlimited storage. So I would just keep it there. And if anything, if he was doing anything with recording, I would just keep it in Google Drive, put the name of the guest and the date, and call it a day, if that's what he's asking. So forgive me, Adil, if I got that wrong.
Yeah, I could maybe answer more in general, because it's important to recognize that there's very different type of properties, and specifically what type of guests are coming there. And in some locations, and I can imagine that this very much applies to certain beaches in certain areas of Maine, but maybe not other areas in Maine or other beaches. Pretty much every guest is going to be the same, and they expect the same thing. They have been booking there, coming with their family and friends for 20 years or even 40 years. And when they book one of those houses on the beach, they know exactly what they're going to get because they've seen them all already. And when they check in, you know who they are. Well, you don't know exactly who they are, but people who are exactly identical to them have been checking in for decades. You've seen them a million times before. For them, you don't need any gimmicks. You just hand over the keys and then you go there and clean. That's all you need to do, because you've seen it a million times already. But other properties will have a variety of customers. Some of the customers may not speak English or the other local language. Some of the customers or guests will come there and try to steal everything. That can be the case, for example, in a big city. Some people will have huge expectations. That might be a marketing problem, but it might also be that you just have a very diverse amount of people checking in. Whatever problems you're dealing with is probably related to the property, either the location or the type of property. Because if you have an ideal property, 90% of your guests will be exactly the same. There's some vacation homes in Florida where 90% of the guests are 1 or 2 couples who come in with their kids, and the kids are usually below 10. And when you look at the guests, 90% of them fulfill that because they got the ideal family vacation home. And then there's other homes that are quite similar and maybe in the same area, but everyone who books is over 65 and they're either single or a couple. And it's just, yeah, you got to get that marketing mix to know who you are. But in some locations, like in a big city, especially if you're renting smaller units at a lower price point, yeah, you need different procedures. So that's why probably Derek doesn't need any video at all, because he knows these guests already. He's been doing this for a long time.
I like that, Mark. That's a good answer. Very good answer.
All right. Well, we come to the top of the hour, and there's not a lot of new questions here. So, Derek, I wanted to ask you if anyone wants to reach out and ask you any questions or any advice. Do you have any way they can reach you?
Yes. So in the chat, this is what I'll do. I'll put email. They are welcome to email me anything. I'm a friendly person. Laugh all the time. You can reach out to me. I'll do my best to answer any questions if you need to. I know Marcus before this. Ben put a nice little thing together for me and said a lot of people like to get in touch via LinkedIn. So no one laugh at me, but I just signed up for LinkedIn, so I'll get a photo on there. So if people prefer that, be my friend. It will be nice, but I'll send my email on the chat now just so people have it. But they can reach out to me however they want, and I welcome it. I absolutely welcome it. I usually get back somewhat quickly, so maybe a day or so, but yeah, they can reach out to me, ask me questions. Someone just asked me what I use for a website. I let them know Hostaway. So like I said, I'll provide any value that I can. Sometimes just give me a day or two to reply, but yeah, that's probably the best, I would say, by email, but reach out to me on LinkedIn if you want to. Just know it's new, so don't make fun of me.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Derek. It was a pleasure having you here, and thanks to everyone out there. It looks like I need to tell my wife that we're going to the Ozarks next.
All right. Thank you. It's been an honor. Thanks, everybody, and be well.
Yeah. Thank you.